guys, it's Coach Pro from RosioFlores.com, and today's topic is, should I swear in my business content? So I think this is a very interesting topic. I think I have seen so many people talk about it, and I've seen so many people that I both admire and people that I don't like say things that I admire and things that I don't like. So I thought I'd talk about it and just give you my own, opinion. But the way I want to set up this video is I want to talk about how you can make this decision versus me telling you what I think is right. Because I have got my own opinion. I make my own decision about this, right? And so what's your opinion? How will you make the decision on whether or not you should do it? Before I begin, I want to invite you to subscribe to my monthly newsletter. There I share the month's blog posts. I talk a little bit about what I've been going through in my own life and how what I learned can help you with your own personal journey. I also send you a ton of health, career, and personal development freebies. The link will be in the description below, so make sure that you get on there. The first thing that I want to make sure that I say is, it's your choice. Regardless of what anyone else tries to tell you, it is 100% your choice. What language, how you speak, your accent, anything that goes into what you do for your content, it's your choice. Now, there is a difference between, say, fun content, right, and business content. And so I think that a lot of the times that's where a lot of the trouble comes in, where there's this concept and this idea that because you're doing business content, right, you're sharing how-to videos, you're sharing information that's specifically for teaching people in a professional setting versus YouTubers or other content creators that create things just for fun, that there's a difference in how you should present yourself. And I agree. I think that there is a difference because people are coming to you for a very different reason. And so at the end of the day, though, it's your choice, and how you present yourself is going to make a difference in your world, not in other people's. And so it's going to affect the people who want to see you, and those people are going to choose how they see you based on what you choose. At the end of the day, it is your choice. On that note, because it's your choice, I think it can be very hard to make that choice. I think that we're constantly bombarded by messages that tell us, like, you shouldn't do this, or you have to do this, or if you don't do this, this will happen. That it can be so frustrating, and it can be very hard to make a decision, and you can just make yourself crazy because now you don't know what to do. And it doesn't feel like it's your choice, or it feels like it's your choice, but now it's your responsibility, and it feels a lot heavier. And there's a lot of shame, lots and lots of shame associated with basically anything that has to do with how you should act and how you should make decisions. So that's why I think it's so important to tell you, it's your choice. And it's your choice whether or not you want it to weigh heavy on you or not, whether it is weighing heavy on you or not. Next step. There's a very big difference. I think that not enough people talk about this. And coming from a faith perspective, I think that there's also a lot of shame behind that, where there's a big difference between how you use swear words. And some people are like, you can't say any swear words in any way, shape, or form because that just means you're bad and God hates you. And then there are some people that are like, free for all, maybe more on the hippy dippy lovey do, you could do anything because God loves you. And religion really it's a big part of it, right? It's one of the bigger influences on this whole concept of swearing, and in general, cursing, saying bad words. All of that comes from a lot of religious background for many, many people. Obviously, it's not for everybody, but for a lot of people, that's where that shame comes from. And so it's very hard to understand, what exactly is the right or wrong choice to do when it is hitting you at such a strong point. Because it's not like somebody's telling you you shouldn't do this because it's a rule or a law where it's like very cut and clear, like you're not supposed to do this or that. It's hitting you from a point where like this is your salvation. So a lot of people, it carries a lot more weight than others. And I think something that doesn't get talked about enough is the fact that how you use the word matters. Personally, and this is more of my personal opinion, not like based on anybody else telling me what I think I should think. I think there's a difference between using swear words in a vulgar way and using swear words in an emphasis way. I think that we really do have to think about the fact that it's 2019 and language is different now than it was before. So the way we use certain words have different connotation, they have a very different context, they have a different meaning than the original meaning of the word. And we use them in ways that don't have to be bad. And so obviously, if you're using swear words in a way that you are being offensive, you're being vulgar, you're affecting people in a negative way, or your intention is to be vulgar, personally, I don't like that. I don't like be around it. I don't like people who talk that way. It bothers me. I don't like it. It like hits my soul in a negative way. And so I don't like that. I don't really care to see it in my content, especially not if it's business related. On the other end, because words mean different things these days, because people use them in different contexts, because specific words have just a completely different connotation, I am not in any way, shape, or form offended by Gary Vee cussing or other big prominent, YouTubers and other prominent business people or people who are teaching me. Cuss all you want if it's going to get through to me. Cuss all you want if it's going to teach me something. Cuss all you want if you're being positive and you are creating positive change in the world, because it's not creating a negative impact in my life. It's not somehow making me feel bad. It's making me feel good. It's making me helping me do something that's good. And so if cussing is just a way to emphasize a point, if it's just a way to add flair, or it's just the way the person talks, and it's not in any way, shape, or form trying to hurt somebody, then personally, I don't care. And so I think when it comes to making your choice, you have to understand what you care about, what you don't care about. So does it just bother you if people use certain words? Like, what about the word bothers you? Is it because you have a negative connotation? Personally, in Spanish, I have that sense with a lot of words, because there are words that I'm just like, oh, that just sounds bad. Like, I don't want to use that. They may meant it in a way that's great, but I'm just like, ugh, I don't like that word, But then people have those same connotations with that same connection with regular words that are not in any way, shape, or form considered curse words. And so understand whether that's your own personal choice or you've been told that should be your choice. If somebody says you can't use that word. And sometimes I've gotten that reaction from somebody before when it wasn't a bad word. It's just a word that, because people have used it in a negative context or connected to a curse word, suddenly it has that negative, like you're saying something bad. And I'm like, nah, look at the definition of the word. It is not a bad word, and I didn't use it in a bad context, and I don't want to feel bad about it. Because a lot of the times we're allowing other people's opinions and other people's views and other people's sense to affect us. And that's going to become an issue, because if it's going to keep you from being able to emphasize what you're trying to emphasize, if it's going to keep you from being passionate about what you're passionate about, if it's going to keep you from actually saying what you're trying to say, you're going to struggle. It's going to be really hard, and you're going to feel it. On the other end, you can be Miss never uses bad words, never uses any way, shape, or form in any kind of way saying any curse words or swear words. And you can be vulgar, and you can be rude, and you can be hurtful and offensive. And I think personally, regardless of whether or not you're doing business content, whether you're doing entertainment content, whether you're educational content, whatever it is that you're doing in personal life, talking, connections, relationships, it doesn't matter if you didn't say the word fuck. If you hurt me, if the point of what you were saying was to be rude, was to point out flaws, was to try and bring somebody down, or try to hurt their worldview, or try to mess up their mind. If you are trying to hurt people, it doesn't matter how nicely you say it. To me, it's vulgar. To me, that's offensive. It doesn't matter what words you use. You could sound very polite. And so on that end, when you're making this decision, are you cussing because are you looking for somebody to tell you that it's okay to cuss because you want to be able to flip people off? You want to be able to tell people horrible things because you got permission from somebody on YouTube to tell you that it was okay? Are you wanting to cuss so that in your content you hurt the people? You're trying to pull out these pain points because you think and you've been taught that if you pull out these pain points, then they'll buy from you. I think if that's the case, then you really have to think about not doing that content in general, because there's a very big difference between being somebody who wants to teach, being somebody who wants to help, being somebody who wants to lift people up and wants to influence people in a positive way, regardless of the language that you use, or if you're somebody who wants to tear people down. So you really have to look inward, look deeply at yourself, and understand what is the motive behind the way that you use language. Okay, third point. I think another really important thing to think about is, who are you, and are you being yourself? I think I've gone through stages in my life where when I was a kid I didn't cuss because, I grew up not being allowed to cuss, until one day I said bitch in front of my mom because I was mad at my brother, and she flipped out on me, and it was not something that I did in front of my parents. To this day I don't really do that in front of my parents. It's not something that feels natural in front of them, obviously, but it's also, I understand that there's a difference between, being myself and feeling like I can't be myself because somebody's telling me what to do and how to be and how to act, versus being myself and making a decision that this is not what I want right now. So some of you are completely being like broken down because you're afraid of speaking. You're afraid of saying what you want to say because deep down you are somebody who just speaks freely, and you can't get in front of the camera and you can't talk to somebody, you can't connect with people because you're afraid of what you might say. You're afraid of how you might say things. And you're like, I let that slip in. And so if you're constantly afraid of that, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your relationships. It's going to affect how you come off to people. I know because I have struggled with that for so long. I have gone through times where I was like, screw it, I am who I am, I'm gonna be who I'm gonna be. And then somebody says something, or somebody reacts differently, or somebody tells me you shouldn't do that. Or you come into a new community where you're like, oh, people don't do that, or I shouldn't do that. And so then, for me, it makes it really hard to connect. It makes it really hard to understand who will like me as I am. I think there's a very big difference between you making a decision that, I just don't want to cuss right now. Like, it's just, I don't feel the need to say a certain word. I don't feel the need to express myself in a certain way right now. And you feeling like you can't because it's based on what others want you to be. So you need to understand the difference between those two. And personally, I think that you should err on the side of being who you are. And if you don't like who you are, and you're like, I really do cuss way too much, maybe the solution for that issue is not for you to change yourself in the sense of not allowing yourself to be, but add some more words to your vocabulary. Maybe you gotta read some different kinds of books. Maybe you gotta look at some different kinds of influence and people who will help you see the world in other words. And because honestly, when you're talking to certain people, sometimes their words become your words, right? And so what are you okay with? What are you not okay with? At the end of the day, again, it's your choice how you speak. But I think that you will be generally happier in your life if you allow yourself to just be who you are and then go from there. And then last but not least, you should read the room. It's not always appropriate, and it's not always about you being you, and it's not always about, emphasis. Sometimes you have to have empathy for the people in the room. This is not the same as making decisions because you feel like others will judge you, or because you feel like others won't like you, etc. This is more on the end of like, if you're at a funeral, there's decorum to follow. If you're around children, there's maybe some rules that parents have for their kids. And so you do want to be a little careful when it comes to those kind of things. You do want to, read the room and understand that it's not always appropriate to just be inappropriate. Sometimes there are rooms where it's not appropriate because you being vulgar with others will tell them that you're okay with how they think, that you're okay with what they do. And so that comes down to personal responsibility. If you're in a room with people who you don't know, or people who you maybe understand that they have a very different way of seeing things, and your behavior will give them permission, if your behavior will influence them in a way that's negative, then maybe it's important for you to make a decision that it's best for you not to do that. That's very different than allowing their judgment to inflict on you. This is more about you taking personal responsibility about your influence on others. And so sometimes it's not the best time to cuss, and that's okay. And sometimes it's okay. at the end of the day, I think it is your choice. I think I fluctuate and I don't always feel the need to use a cuss word. Sometimes I think it's really necessary. And sometimes I feel like it was wrong to do it. And so you just have to continuously be asking yourself, what is okay, what's not okay, what's too much and what's too little. And forget what people tell you online. Forget what I tell you. It's not about what I think. It's about what you want and what feels right to you and what's going to help you and influence you in a positive way and going to help you put out the content that you want to put out. If you're talking about, how to raise children, it's going to be very different conversation than saying, how to get yourself freaking motivated every day, So there are content creators out there who are able to really motivate people, and that's how they speak. And there are people who are a little more on the calm side who use different language, and that's okay. And some people just want to talk how they talk, and some people are more likely to put on a professional essence. So what feels right to you? I hope that these things, so first and foremost, it's your choice to understand the difference between the use of words for vulgarity and for emphasis, and how the language itself is used. 3, try to be yourself and understand what it means to allow others to be themselves as well. And 4, read the room and be empathetic about your influence and what you actually bring to the room. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it useful, please like it, comment, react, subscribe, text, email, whatever it is that you do online. Thank you and have a blessed day. Goodbye.